Hello and welcome to our course on Intermediate Macroeconomics. This is ECON 2221 and today we're going to cover the course introduction. My name is Sergio Campo Diaz. I'm an assistant professor of economics at Western University and I'll be the instructor for this course. Today we're going to talk a little bit about me so that you know who is behind the voice that you're hearing. We're going to talk about the course mechanics and finally the course outline. In the next class, we're going to start covering the material by reviewing different aspects and different concepts that you've covered before in your 2220 course. So a little bit about me. But first, welcome to the course. So my background, I'm originally from Colombia. There I did my undergrad and master's at Pontificia Universidad Javeriana, both in economics. And I also spent 3 years working at the Colombian Central Bank. I actually work at the macroeconomic modeling department. This is the department in charge of building dynamic general equilibrium models with the dual objective of forecasting macroeconomic variables. These are variables like GDP, employment, inflation, interest rates, exchange rates, etc. And also understanding the effect of different changes in the economy, particularly foreign shocks, say that the United States decides to change their interest rates, but also policy decisions inside of Colombia, that our government decides to spend more money or raise taxes, or the central bank decides to change the interest rate. And so this really was very formative for me as an economist. Working at the central bank, you really get to see how the models that we see in class can be later on used for policy decisions by policymakers. Then after working there, I moved to Washington, D.C., where I spent a year working at the Inter-American Development Bank, mostly on topics related to labor economics, unemployment, and labor search. And then finally, I moved to Minnesota, where I did my PhD in economics. And actually, I'm very proud of that. And so that you know how I look, here it's me graduating from my PhD. And so now you know exactly how I look. So a little bit about my teaching experience. I actually have been teaching this course on intermediate macro since I was in grad school. So this will be approximately the 6th or 7th time I've taught this course. But the way I'm going to teach it, I'm going to focus on concepts and how to understand models and to use them. So models are very key to how we think as economists and how we see the world. The point here is not to solve math problems. The point here is to represent economic problems and how to think and solve them. So I'm going to be putting a lot of emphasis on interpretation and on how to interpret different problems we see in real life as mathematical problems that later are going to tell us things about how the economy works. So that's going to be where most of our time is going to be spent. I also do this because I want to help you build tools that you will use across almost any econ class. So I really hope that you can take out of this course not only your knowledge about macroeconomics and the models we use in macroeconomics, but also general ways of thinking and general ways of solving problems that can be useful in classes beyond this one. Now, one final thing I want to talk about myself is research. Turns out research is the main occupation of economists. That is most of what we do. We also teach, but most of our time is spent researching. And so understanding what your professor is researching is really important for you to know what they do, how they think, and the type of things they actually devote time to. So these research topics vary a lot, and they often differ from what exactly we teach in class. In my case, I teach and research in macro, but when you look at my research, I focus mostly on heterogeneity. That is the sense in which not all people have the same income. There are some people that are poor, some people that are rich. Not everybody has the same occupation. Some people, they work in services. Some people are clerics. Some people are managers. And then at the same time, not only people are heterogeneous amongst them, but also firms are heterogeneous amongst them. They are not all the same. They are not all as productive. They don't all face the same competition. So understanding how all this heterogeneity aggregates to macro effects of policy, it's very important to me. And so I wanted to give you a sense of that by briefly mentioning 3 of my papers. The first one, it's called Use It or Lose It. efficiency gains from wealth taxation. And in this paper, we reevaluate the properties of wealth taxes as opposed to capital income taxes. We actually find that wealth taxes can improve efficiency in the economy, and they are preferred to capital income taxes because they favor people with higher returns that are also more productive. So you can increase the overall productivity by switching from capital income taxes, which are paid by the people who have the highest returns, to wealth taxes, which are mostly paid by the wealthy, unproductive people, people who have lots of wealth, but they aren't doing much with it. And so this is a new sense in which wealth taxes can be good for the economy, not because they reduce inequality, but because they favor the accumulation of wealth by people who are having high returns and that know what to do with that money. In a very different second project that's called self-employment and development, I study the fact that in developing countries, without a safety net, poor people can become self-employed out of necessity. So you start your own business, which is usually a very unproductive business, because you cannot search for a job. You cannot remain unemployed for long periods of time because you're poor and the state is not there to help you. And we show there that this has important implications for developing policies and to understand why developing countries are so much less productive than developed countries. And so this is a second paper. And for you to see, this also applies to firms. In a third paper, it's called The Evolution of US Retail Concentration. I show there is a known and marked trend of higher concentration across industries. And in particular, what we do is we measure local concentration in the retail industry. Local concentration is important because most retail markets are local. You buy goods mostly from retail businesses that are close to you. And we showed that concentration has indeed increased in the retail sector, but that the effect on consumers might be small. And so this kind of gives you a sense of the different topics that I study. You can find more information at my website. That's a hyperlink in case you want to click on it. And in fact, I actually encourage you to look at all of your professors' website. That's going to help you understand what they do, what they work on, how they think, and you can engage them more in terms of what they are actually thinking about. And so I really encourage you to go and check what are your professors doing as you take their courses. And with that, that's enough about me, and we can now move to course mechanics. Okay, so the present course, it's going to be divided in 6 modules. Each of these modules is going to last for 2 weeks, and each module is going to cover a specific topic. Topics are generally going to build on the previous ones, and they are going to be linked to a book chapter that's going to be from the Williamson's macroeconomics book, the same one that you use in ECON 2220, that will be Intermediate Macro 1. Or if we're going to use some additional materials, I will provide those readings. Module materials are generally going to be the following. You're going to have some readings you have to do. I'm going to provide you with slides, and those slides are going to be accompanied by video lectures such as this one that are going to give you more details about what we do. Then for each module, I'm also going to give you sample exercises of the type of questions that we can encounter given the topic that we're covering. Now, what we're going to have are module tests. So each module we have a test. Each of these tests has up to 3 questions, and one of those questions is going to be drawn directly from the sample problems that you're going to have. Now, tests will take place the Monday after we finish each module. So that's going to be Mondays every 2 weeks, starting on the Monday of January 25th. The test will take 1 hour and 30 minutes. That's 1 hour and a half, and they are going to start at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. At that time, you can access the questions through OWL and then upload your answers again through OWL. I will give you an additional 30 minutes after this hour and a half so that you can upload your answers, and there will be no submissions after that. Now, to be clear, the only answer that you can upload is a single PDF file where you're going to have the answers to the 3 problems in order. It is your responsibility that these uploads are legible so that we can grade them correctly. Now, we're also going to have some readings. Actually, there will be a reading associated to each module. And these readings are going to come from academic articles in economics, and the objective is to give you a sense of other things economists do, but also how macroeconomics as a field has evolved in recent decades. Macroeconomics has changed a lot, and I want to give you a sense through the viewpoint of different important macroeconomists of how this has happened. Okay, so I really hope you enjoy these readings. Now, each of the readings is going to have an assignment, a short one-page write-up about the reading. I'm going to provide you with a specific question that you should answer for each of these readings. And again, you need to upload this, but this is going to be the second Monday of every module. That's going to be Monday every 2 weeks, starting January 18th. So what's going to happen is every Monday, you're going to either have to submit one of your readings, or you're going to have one of the tests for the module. And so that's going to be basically the pace that we cover in the class. Now, the grading is going to be based, of course, on the readings that you're going to do and on the test. And so the reading assignments are going to be 20% of the total grade, and all assignments are equally weighted. And the module tests are going to be the remaining 80% with all the tests equally weighted. And that's going to be the entirety of the grades of the course. Okay, there are no exams. Now, the makeup policy, reading assignments received after the deadline will not be accepted, and a grade of 0 will be attributed. Okay, you can, of course, if you have a problem, you can always submit your reading assignments before time. That way you will not run this risk. There will be no makeups for any of the reading assignments, or any, that's a typo there, sorry, or any of the module tests. Okay, no makeups whatsoever. In case you miss a module test, as a student, you can present an official document justifying the absence. And if you do, then the weight of the test will be distributed evenly among the other tests. So instead of 80% of the course being divided between 6 tests, it will be divided between the 5 remaining tests. If you cannot provide a justification for the absence, then a mark of 0 will be assigned to the test. This also happens if you do not submit your test in the half an hour that you're provided to do so. Okay? If you start submitting at the beginning of the half an hour, you will have enough time to troubleshoot any problems you have, to upload it correctly. Okay, oh, sorry, that jumped on me. Then the final thing we want to talk about today is the course outline. So again, this is going to be around the modules. Our first module is going to be entirely made of review. We're going to be covering the 2-period general equilibrium model, and this is going to be based on chapter 11 of the textbook. Again, that's Williamson's textbook. It doesn't really matter which edition you have. If you have the book, chapter 11 is what we're going to cover. We're also going to briefly cover some mathematical tools that you're going to be using, but this is going to be the core. Okay, so that's the first module. The second module is going to be about the fiscal multiplier and price rigidities. It's going to be based on part of chapter 11 of the textbook, but also on some academic papers by professors Atif Mian and Amir Sufi, who have researched this topic extensively. Atif Mian is at Princeton, Amir Sufi is at the Booth School of Business of the University of Chicago. Then we're going to jump to chapter 6 of the textbook, and we're going to cover a third module on unemployment and search frictions. That's going to be the third module. By then, we're going to be halfway through the course. Then we're going to jump to chapter 15 of the textbook that actually builds directly on chapter 11 to talk about international trade and sovereign default. So we're going to talk about open economies in this module. The final 2 modules are going to be about monetary economics. The first one about money neutrality, and it's going to be on chapter 12 of the textbook. Money neutrality is the starting point of how we think about money. But then we're going to be able to talk about money non-neutrality in the cash in advance model. This is also based on chapter 12 of the textbook, actually on the appendix. And with that, we're going to cover all the different topics we want that go from the simple 2-period general equilibrium model where everything is real. We're going to be able to talk about the effects of fiscal policy on employment, which is absent from that model, but we're going to be able to introduce it. We're going to open the economy to international trade, and then we're going to introduce money to be able to talk about monetary policy as well. And so with that, we finish for today. And in the next lecture, what we're going to talk about are different mathematical concepts, mostly linked to optimization and constraint optimization, that we're going to be using throughout the course. Thank you.